Well, good morning, YouTube viewers. Today we have a 21 Silverado, and it might still be under warranty because it's only got 75,000 kilometers on it. I tried to call the dealer, but that was a exercise in futility. Left a voicemail message for service. Anyway, 75,000 kilometers, but it's here because the service four-wheel drive message is on the dash. I think it's got automatic parking brake. That's why the parking brake is on right now. So we're going to do a scan and see what codes it has to retrieve, and then wait for a call back from the dealer to see if there's any warranty consideration on this yet. So it's ID'd the vehicle as a 21 Silverado with 75,619 kilometers. Let's do a code scan. And it's a pre-scan. Should be fairly quick. Catalyst deficiency below limit threshold, bank 1. That's not good for 75,000 kilometers. That's not causing the service four-wheel drive light to come on, is it? P2C7A. That's a new code. Where's the four-wheel drive? I don't see the four-wheel drive control module, but there's no modules complaining about a lack of communication. Oh, there we go. Range actuator position sensor direction signal circuit short to battery. Range actuator sensor ground circuit open. I got to take a call. So that was a dealership calling me back. The warranty expired. The base warranty expired April of 24. But it has powertrain warranty to 160,000 kilometers. But if it's just a sensor or a wiring problem, it won't be covered under the powertrain. Maybe the range actuator itself might be a powertrain item. And obviously internal problems with the transfer case would be likely covered under powertrain warranty. There is an outstanding recall, something to do with the stop start or starter system. But we're going to raise this up and do a visual inspection of the range actuator position sensor. So we're underneath this 21 Silverado. This is the range sensor here. And I've had one where the wire was compromised right where it went into the terminal. But this one looks okay. I'm going to set up a battery charger on this thing and backpin some of these terminals to see what voltages we have. There's a 5-volt reference, a ground, and a signal. But the signal is a varying pulse width, if I remember correctly. I diagnosed one of these before. I'll get a wiring diagram and I'll get a battery charger on this thing so I can have the key in the run position or the ignition on without the battery going dead. So this is the fault code troubleshooting chart for a C11B9 or C15C1, which is both codes we have. Range actuator position sensor direction signal circuit, and C1 range actuator position sensor ground circuit. B9, it was a 00 if I'm not mistaken. Symptom 01 and 04. 01 is short to voltage, well, maybe an open circuit, and 04 is open or high resistance. So we have 5-volt reference. Let's see if it talks about how this thing works. System voltage 9 to 17 volts, ignition on, runs continuously. C05 range actuator position 0 hertz. So it produces a varying frequency. 2.3 to 3.49 volts. Now let's look at the circuit. I gotta pull up a schematic. So the white red wire into pin 1 is the 5-volt reference. Pin 3, which is the yellow black wire, is ground. And pin 2, the middle pin, is the signal wire. So I'm gonna print off this diagram. We're gonna go underneath there and test for the 5 volts, the ground, and the signal. So I got the voltmeter set up here to graph. I got it grounded on the transfer case with a pair of vice grips, and I'm back probing what's supposed to be the 5-volt reference. The white red wire in pin 1, and it's 5 volts. Then the yellow wire in pin 3 should be 0 volts, 0.01. And then the middle wire is supposed to be a varying duty cycle. Now, probably need a lab scope to see that. Graphing multimeter, oh, there's a signal there. So why is it setting a code? Unless this wire is intermittently broken here. Like I said, I had one where the terminal was compromised right at the connector where it went in. Unfortunately, it's hard to test for that. Let's clear the code and see if it goes away. Because backpinning doesn't necessarily, that's the ground. And I don't have a signal on the middle wire. Yes, I do. Let's graph the frequency of it. So it's 1002 hertz. So let's put it at 2 kilohertz. Wiggle the connections here. I'm graphing that frequency if it's going to drop out. No dropouts. Let's see if the code's current still. So I've got the key in the run, ignition in the run position. Let's display codes. See, test not passed since power up. Let's clear them and see what happens. Key on, engine off. It is. Give it a second. Display codes. That's a different code. Range actuator system performance plausibility failure. That's a different code. 119E. Test failed since DTC cleared. Warning indicator requested. Range actuator system performance. I'm going to do some research. So in the data list it says the range actuator direction is invalid. So let's look up the C119E and see what the criteria is for setting that code. So according to the troubleshooting chart, C119E symptom 5A is not plausible conditions greater than 5 degrees. Shifting will be disabled, driver information display, service 4-wheel drive. So is it a correlation between the frequency from that range sensor, or is it a problem with the actuator now? Refer to circuit system testing. Disconnect the electrical connector at the transfer case motor. Connect a test lamp between the test points, control circuit A and control circuit D. Turn the ignition on, vehicle in service mode. That's long pressing the ignition button. Perform scan tool, control function range actuator, verify the test light lights. Okay. Connect a test lamp. Doesn't specify a specific test light, but I would think a fairly high current test light because that's the motor that's operating. Verify the test lamp state. Range actuator idle, test lamp off. Clockwise, test lamp on. Range actuator counterclockwise, test lamp on. So that would qualify the wires. If not specified state, remove test lamp, disconnect the electrical connector at the transfer case. What if it is? Check continuity of the wires with an ohm meter. I hate when they do that. If to specify, replace the actuator. So we can do that at least, but I got to print a wiring diagram for this thing. So I've got a test light connected across pins A and D, which are the motor control pins. And I'm using a 3057 bulb with 2 filaments, so I got both filaments, so it's about 2.5 amps. I'm going to set it up so that we can do this test with, you have to have the transmission in neutral and the brake applied, so I got a brake pedal depressor in there and I got the transmission in neutral, and of course the ignition is on. So I'm clicking counterclockwise and it lights up, and then stop. Now I got device control limit exceeded, so I have to go back and do the test again. Apply and hold the brake, continue. And I'm going to go clockwise now, pressing the button now. And it stays on for about 2 seconds and it shuts off and it gives me an error saying device control limit exceeded. No, it didn't. Now I click counterclockwise. Oh, I guess when I click stop, it gives me that error. So according to the troublemaker chart, this thing needs an actuator. Let's review the test procedure again. So according to this, it's supposed to light in clockwise and counterclockwise. If it does, it says test or replace component A16 transfer case motor. I've reconnected it. I'm going to go into the diagnostic suite here again. I'm going to clear the codes. Say yes. And give it a second. Let's read codes. C119E came back. C119E-5A. But that doesn't make sense. How does it know? Let's try and command it with it plugged in and see if it runs it. Apply and hold the brake pedal, transmission's in neutral. clockwise, counterclockwise. It worked, so I'm not convinced that it needs a controller. I want to see what the frequency did on the graphing multimeter. I had that plugged in. It didn't change. I was recording the frequency and it didn't change. Something doesn't jive here. I'm not convinced that it needs an actuator. This thing's only got 75,000 kilometers on it. The truck is like brand new. So something is not right. So I tried the range actuator test a couple of times with it plugged in, and all it does is make a click. It doesn't actually run. And that's why the frequency from that range sensor doesn't change. It's stuck at 998 hertz or 1,000 hertz. So I talked to the dealer, and the part is covered under powertrain warranty. So I'm going to pass this job off to the dealership with the instructions with the owner, talk to the service manager at the local dealer. And hopefully that's going to resolve the condition. I'm sure they'll have to diagnose it themselves, but we'll see. I'll post a follow-up once I know.